So our team focused on disruption, and the idea and the concept here was, how do you organize people internally for disruption and dealing with it? We have a set of bullet points here. I won't go through them line by line. I created a narrative for this, but we'll try to cover every single one of the bullets here. So let's imagine that organizations have in their, by definition, are organized, and they're under control, and they have some structure. So companies, not-for-profits or whatever, they're organized. But outside is chaos, right? There's a lot of things that are potentially disrupting them, and they have opportunity to use that same disruption for their own benefit. So here are a couple things that we discovered from this. The company can choose to react, and many times this is a large enterprise company filled with rules followers. Those individuals have no real intent to have any change happen in their organization, and those organizations are typically doing very well at sustainable growth and sustainable evolution. There are then startups, right, that completely have people who don't follow any rules at all, and they're trying to find great ways to disrupt the industries with new technology, new talent, whatever. What's interesting about all of this is, what do you do if you're in the middle? And this is where we found, I think, some interesting opportunities. And probably the greatest level of discussion we had as a team was to go back and look at organizations that were extremely competent at bringing out disruptive change from within. This is a rare thing, and it's only typically, or seems to happen, in a few large Silicon Valley companies that have really embraced a certain methodology. They start with really a culture of leadership. They have strong leaders who are given authority, and they come within a culture that embraces change. One of the things we found in those is that where there's one of those entities at the top, there's a combination of innovation and strategy actively engaged in the same place. So there's a team or a group that's focused on not just the innovation, but also the strategy, and they're very closely tied to a corporate entity that can make decisions. Within that, then, we found that the ones that were successful had essentially the authority to, and it was really awesome. We were in the middle with the panel when Eric said, I protect those startups, right? I take protective action to make sure those startups can do what is necessary for them inside of the organization. So we found that was probably one of the most important things, and that led to a great conversation around what it meant to have culture that led to that kind of authority. We also went down the path, by the way, of can you have leaders that by themselves have that authority, and could you build a company that actually pass the baton from one leader to the next? And that was our point, and that was, again, inspired by Eric's answer on the panel, because he said he was going to step down in a few years, and then what would happen, right? So we were inspired by that. And we thought of places like Intel, right? And contrast that with another place like Sun Microsystems. It had a very strong culture initially, but then lost it, whereas Intel has been able to keep its culture. So that's where we came at it from a disruption. We were really, I think, looking for a place where individuals who are rules makers, in particular, could thrive. Because the rule maker, and this is really well, I'll just say this is the big finish here. The rules, if we have people who don't follow any rules in the startups, and we have people who are rules followers in the big enterprise, it's the ones in the middle, those rules makers, that create those disruptive products that go to market. And they create structure out of the chaos and go and seize opportunity. And I think it's those rules makers that you often don't see in these companies unless they have a culture. They only stay in those companies if there is a culture that supports this disruptive innovation from within. So that's what our team did. Any questions?